Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy, what is it, Wednesday? Happy Hump Day. Do the Hump Day dance, right? That's what we do here on Wednesdays. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Wednesday to talk the middle of the week pro wrestling news. It's our good friend, comedian Brian Wohl. Brian, welcome to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Oh, it's great to be here. Undergoing a lot of changes. We've got NXT 2.0, and now I have my apartment 2.0, getting rid of all the dead stuff behind me.
Yeah, right? You look far less like Silence of the Lambs serial killer now.
It's wild. It's my wife's stuff, and it's a great vibe for her, but I think it's a little different than me.
I dig it. I think we all like it. I mean, I personally am a fan of the macabre, so I never had an issue with it, but I can understand how others very concerned maybe about the dead bugs that used to plague your background.
It frightens the guests.
Yeah,
frightens the guests.
That's right. Scares the squares. That's what I say. We ain't got no scares here. We ain't got no squares here. We scared them off, everybody. We got a great show planned today. Of course, B-Wo's in the house here. The chat room is open. Congratulations, Chaz Shaw. He said, first like, cool guy emojis. Yeah, if you want to jump in the chat room, I'll bring your comments up throughout the show on the screen, or you can just hear them in podcast form as well. But yeah, likes are great. Smiley faces are great. If you want to support the show, iTunes reviews are great. Just, get engaged. Let's do this. Let's tune in. Let's scare the squares here at the Wrestling Inc. Daily. So we got B-Wo in the house. We got you all in the chat room. B-Wo, we're going to get a double dose of you here today. After we talk the news, I'm going to play the audio from your SummerSlam weekend conversation with Damian Priest. You want to tee this up? What can people expect here?
Oh my gosh. Damian Priest was one of the folks at the junket that I was most excited to talk to. I've been very fascinated with his rise as a star in WWE. I feel like every single feud he's had has been super logical to show different sides of who Damian Priest is. And we got to actually talk about that stuff. And then I, as a former high guy at BuzzFeed, I have a little bit of a nose for these things, and I had to ask Damian who he rides with, because I had a feeling he was a little bit of a party guy for realsies. Okay. And Damian Priest reveals that in this interview, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, he rides with Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, and Rhea Ripley. Sure. And I think I found the party car.
Party car. That sounds like a party car to me, right? Nice and hazy kind of party car right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I dig it. Well, that's a great setup. And then after we hear B-Wo's conversation with Damian Priest, we're going to get to hear my Thursday co-host, Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Pollo Del Mar, had a chance to sit down with PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Kevin McElvaney. He's the executive editor, to talk about this year's PWI 500. And, of course, at the end of the show for everybody, we'll dive into the mailbag. So very loaded show here today, multiple segments. You can go check out Paul and Kevin's conversation over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. It'll premiere shortly after we're done here with the Daily. And at the end of the show, like I said, the mailbag for everybody, we're going to look at potential dream matches between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. But let's get to it here. News you can use. News will leave a bruise. I don't know if I would consider this one bruising. Bit of a mixed bag for me here. Last night was WWE NXT 2.0. Before we get into the nitty gritty here, general takes. What did you think? Did this deliver on your expectations for a reboot of NXT?
It was weird. It felt very uneven. And I think the biggest thing for me is it didn't feel fun. It didn't feel very fun at all. It didn't feel genuinely fun. It felt a little bit like math. It felt like people were really trying hard to hit their spots, and it didn't feel genuinely fun. The wedding was nice. The wedding felt like a genuine moment, but I felt like the wedding was kind of like a grand finale for the NXT that we once knew.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we're going to have some different takes here then today. I'm glad we set the table for this. Dave In, by the way, here agreeing with you. The Index wedding, he says that was better than All Out. And I don't know that I would go that far.
But, there's wrestling fans of all colors and types,
Sure. Samantha here. NXT 2.0 was great last night. Vincent Bruce did a great job. Now, if they could only fix Raw. So I've been hearing, like I say, a mixed bag. We heard a little not fun from BWO. We have other people saying good job. Well, we'll start here with the backstage news going into last night's show. Maybe this is where you're getting your math vibe from here, Brian, because PWInsider.com saying there was said to be a lot of trepidation amongst the wrestlers ahead of last night's taping. There had already been a lot of stress and concern among the wrestlers after the last round of releases due to the feeling that wrestlers who, quote, did everything they were supposed to, end quote, and were, quote, great talents, again, end quote, were released, leaving some of the remaining wrestlers feeling as if everyone was now on thin ice, and that even if they did the right thing, it didn't matter, and their runs could be over at any point with no notice. This I should do like the I mean, this is some real. By the way, Survivor coming back in 6 days. It feels like Jeff Probst is hosting NXT right now. That's a very uneasy environment to be in there, BWO.
What a terrible job. Like, what a horrible workplace. That's scary. I would hate that. And what do you do if you got a family? What do you tell your kids and your wife or your husband? You know, I mean, it's crazy to me.
Because, like, I remember, like, I've mentioned this recently, but I was part of Grubhub's inside sales team early on. And, you know, when you're in a sales position, you're working on commission, you know, if you haven't hit your numbers for a little while, you know, you start to get a vibe, maybe I'm in trouble. But it's like an earned trouble, right? An unearned trouble where you just start slashing some of the best salespeople in the sales office. I've never seen anything like that. That's new to me, Brian. That's a new one.
Yeah, and folks who've done everything that they've been asked. I don't know.
So while there has always while that has always been true, there was previously a feeling that talents were in somewhat of a protective cocoon thanks to Triple H, but that feeling is no more. The call time for last night's NXT TV taping was moved up earlier than usual because it's the first live broadcast in several weeks, and with everything planned, including pre-tapes, they needed everyone there and ready to go. There was a concern among some talents over the fact that Triple H likely would not work the taping as he's recovering from his recent heart surgery. And I do not believe that he was working the taping last night. I actually think Shawn Michaels might have been calling it last night. There was a feeling among some wrestlers that they didn't know what they were walking into yesterday. Didn't know if it was going to be Triple H's regular crew running the show or other higher-ups. Well, Kevin Dunne, longtime WWE employee, he was at the 2.0 tapings. So while there's been a lot of speculation on who was going to be a part of it, it looks like Dunne's going to be part of that crew. And there, you could tell the Kevin Dunne fingerprints on the camera styles of NXT last night. It definitely felt like a Raw SmackDown filming style. It did not feel like the gritty NXT style we've been getting used to.
Yeah, the visual style of NXT has always been different than Raw and SmackDown. And now, well, everything looks the same. How fun. I don't know, man. Well, also, when did they finish the last tapings? Did they have 3 weeks to prepare this show?
They did. They had 3 weeks to do pre-tape to build to this moment and to roll it out, right? So there was
the heck?
Yeah. They had 3 weeks to prepare just for this night. Furthermore, before we even get to what happened on this show, there was a great sense of unease among the wrestlers as they wait, like everyone else, to find out exactly what this brand is supposed to be moving forward. The atmosphere at the taping was described as, quote, weird by multiple talents who were backstage. And creative for last night's show, word has it that the script changed a ton of times over the course of the day. So a lot of the issues, like not just production wise, we start to hear this, but if you're working on a revamp, you want to make sure that first one's good. You know, you should hopefully be able to kind of burn away everything you did that in those 3 weeks there where you were kind of readying for this. A lot of things happen in wrestling. People get injured, but you seem to be very skeptical here of the fact that,
They had 3 weeks. They had 3 weeks, and they put out a show that felt slapped together, Nick. LA Knight worked twice for no reason. We didn't need that. We didn't need that at all. You could put Braun Breaker against anybody. And they had the advertised thing of Kyle O'Reilly. Then they replaced him with Von Beverly brother. And Von Wagner. And then we don't even get the Frankie Monet Raquel Gonzalez match that's been advertised for 3 weeks. You gotta be kidding me. What? I feel like a dope for caring about this.
All right. Well, I'll double back with some more production stuff, but let's get to kind of the meat of it here, because I see some people talking about Braun Breaker here. Says Brian Bills 1417 with kind of a sad face. We have here Samantha. Why did they change Rex Steiner to Braun Breaker? I've been saying it a little bit now. I don't hate it as much as, what a letdown from Rex Steiner, right? What a badass name that was going to be.
And he wears his dad and uncle's singlet. He looked amazing. He looked great. He was a good part of the show. But gosh, there's so many things. The talent isn't the problem.
It was weird to me. So, I actually didn't mind LA Knight working twice. I didn't hate it because Braun looked great. It was a surprising victory. It was supposed to be like this warm-up match. So it was like a win out of nowhere. But I thought he was going to take LA Knight's place in the main event then. The fact that Kyle O'Reilly was the one that was taken out and replaced by a new talent, that was a swerve to me. Seemed like the setup was there to put Braun right there, maybe put the title on him right out of the gate, which I don't think after last night's performance, a lot of people would have maybe been too unhappy with.
I don't get it, man. There's so many. You can book anything. You can do. It's a blank sheet of paper in 3 weeks, and that was what they did. Come on.
I see 89 the brainchild here saying Vaughn looked like Vigo from Ghostbusters 2. I see it, and I want him to go that direction. Play with it. River of Slime, I'm fine with it. But, so anyway, he doesn't get inserted there. We get Von Wagner in there. So it becomes Von Wagner, Pete Dunne, LA Knight, Tommaso Ciampa, and Ciampa walks out as the new NXT champion. I was really surprised by that. I thought that they would go a completely fresh direction, but it looks like back to the well of using an angry, grizzled Ciampa to heat up whoever's next in line, which looks like maybe Braun,
Yeah, I felt like the whole match was so underwhelming. It didn't feel like a title match. It didn't feel important.
No.
Everything to me was a letdown. They had 3 weeks. You couldn't come up with anything better than this. Come on.
I don't want to poo-poo the wedding here, and the I do that Dexter Lumis gave got a big pop, but that's mid-card. That's middle of the show. The title match, if you wanted it to mean something, I was like, when the title match happened, I literally had to be like, wait, did I miss the wedding? Oh, wait, they're closing with, what? Why are you closing with this bit of humor for your first episode back? I didn't get it, man. The pacing was a little weird to me last night.
It was all a mess. It was a mess that felt not genuine. It felt, gosh, it doesn't mean that they can't right the ship. The talent at NXT is amazing, but gosh, what garbage.
But see, here's the thing. And I feel like I may be being too apologetic, and I don't know what's in my coffee here today. But I've been trying to be easier on pilot episodes, right? And I think maybe we should look at it a little bit through that lens where you have to real quickly introduce some characters. There were a lot of characters that got debuted on this show, a lot of new characters. So the broad points thrown out there, then you start to kind of hone in on the details and the more specifics. I'll give a crumb of credence to some of that mentality and the fact that this is a pilot. All pilots have a lot of exposition and crazy things happening right out of the gate. That's pretty traditional for pilots.
Yeah, look, man, we could watch the AEW pilot. You could watch the NWA Power pilot and compare it to NXT 2.0. And I think you'll see that NXT 2.0 isn't as good as either of those other pilots. I feel like they really dropped the ball last night. It's not good.
Okay. We have a couple write-ins. Let's go with Eric Roberts 2.0, and we still give the title to a guy that already had it. And that's the weird thing for me is how they're going to bridge old NXT with new NXT, because there ain't a whole lot of Tommaso Ciampa's roaming around NXT anymore. He's the minority of tenured NXT members at this point. I wonder what that balance as you try to bridge new and old looks like.
The show ended with Ciampa facing off with Braun Breaker. So I feel like, is Braun going to just squash Ciampa? Or is this going to be a back and forth, 5-star classic? I feel like we're going to see a completely different style of wrestling match going forward in NXT.
It feels, if they're going to go right to Braun and Ciampa, I could see Ciampa beating Braun, and you build this guy up as somebody who's new and very close. He goes into other programs, he comes back and wins the big one later on. But it does just kind of feel like Ciampa was just the pick out of the hat to have whoever the new talent is roll through him. And again, I'll wait and see how it plays out. Ciampa's an amazing wrestler. I have a lot of faith. This guy Braun, it's got legacy and pedigree and all the right look and positive features. Maybe he is the guy. I don't know. It felt more Goldberg to me with the LA Knight thing, right? I think we're going to see Braun maybe go on like a couple months worth of a tear before we finally get that confrontation with Ciampa. I would prefer that, at least.
I feel like, but he also had that very John Cena introduction. It was like almost the exact same John Cena paint by numbers. Like, my name is Braun Breaker. I'm here to challenge you. And then everyone gives him respect backstage. It was like so paint by numbers. It all just felt like they took old scripts and recycled them.
Can we talk about how, since they gave him the name Braun, like how much of a signal that is to the other Braun they just let go? That like, hey, dude, you have lost so much. I thought, I was thinking about Braun, like that comment he made about a year ago, ragging the pores. That's really going to come back to haunt him. I feel like that was some karma you just don't want to put out to the world, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's pretty much the end of Braun Strowman for a while.
He should just go. He should just go the Baron. He should do the Baron Corbin storyline, just like full on, just dive into it, right? Become the pores. Raheem Harrell, Vince McMahon is killing NXT. I like Triple H much better. Triple H unfortunately wasn't even there last night, so hopefully when he gets back in the mix, we'll see. But like, I just released this episode of Pro Wrestling for Life with Sean Waltman this morning. You go check it out. Cheap plug. But I asked him about Hunter's cardiac arrest, and he talked. Well, he said he kind of revealed a little inside text message they'd had, touching base afterwards, which was good. But Sean was like, "Dude, you got hundreds of millions of dollars and like this beautiful house. Like, why do anything? Like, just go live, go be a dad. Like, get away from all of this. Like, why don't you just do that?" And I do we see Triple H come back to NXT? Like, I don't know that's I mean, he's still human. And this is his, like, one of his best friends, Sean Waltman, being like, dude, go live your life. You've made it. You made your money. Go be dad. Why do you want to deal with this? Right? I don't know. I don't know that it's a given we see Hunter back. So
I think it would be so fascinating to see Triple H have like a Thanos farm. Where he just gets into farming and he's just sitting there peacefully for the rest of his life, reflecting back on all the shows he's done.
I do wonder, like, and I know it's a joke and everything, but would Hunter ever go to AEW just because he'd be happier, just because he could like play around, just be like, hey, I'm like the rest of you guys. Let's do pro wrestling. Can I be part of the pro wrestling company? I used to be a part of one, and it was good. It was really good, and it maybe kind of inspired what you guys did a little bit, but they took it away from me. I don't know. I don't know. I feel bad even floating that out there, but go ahead.
I don't know. I don't think he'd want to go somewhere where he has to take a loss.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that Hunter's going to be wrestling after that cardiac event. He'd be great just like hanging out with the elite, right? Like Uncle Trips, hey, what's going on? Kind of when he was like in the Shield, he was like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? All right. So, all right. I'll try to get back to the order of the run sheet. We've touched on some of this stuff. All right. Matt Men Podcast. If this wasn't obvious already, the new name of the show is NXT 2.0, at least for the time being. And the source told them they want people to know this is a whole new NXT. A whole new NXT. Some familiar faces, familiar champion. I really thought they were going to put it on like that Van Wagner kid or Prod Breaker at the last time. I was like convinced of it.
I thought Pete Dunne because he's everyone's fave.
Yeah, I was. Well, we'll get to Dunne here in just a second. So the rebrand also sees a new venue. Then the performance. It's at the Performance Center now. PW Insider saying the Capital Wrestling Center name will not be used anymore. It's just going to be known as the home of NXT. I haven't really heard anybody write or report on why they left Full Sail University. I've heard some stuff. I think there's maybe a story there. Have you seen anything about it?
No, and I haven't really been able to talk to anyone in Florida, so I don't know. Don't we have Scott Fishman or someone over there?
Yeah, Scott. I could talk to Scott. We got people down there. I haven't had time to really kind of flush it out. I heard some stuff over All Out Weekend about their exit from Full Sail University and how they were going to the Performance Center or back to the Performance Center. And I was like, that's crazy. Why, what happened? Why would they do that? But lo and behold, here we are back at the Performance Center. Do you think it's a good look? Do you like that venue that they've built?
It looks better than the CWC, but I don't know. I like Full Sail. I got used to Full Sail, man. I was watching NXT when it was on Hulu. And then when it made the jump to WWE Network, I'm really emotionally attached to it. So it's hard for me to see it and love the new thing. It just feels so produced and so fake. It just doesn't feel like a real wrestling show. I don't know.
I don't want to rag the venue too hard because I do think it looks aesthetically more pleasing by a mile than the Capital Wrestling Center. But like, it's still just like a warehouse, right? Like it's like a mullet building. It's like party in the front, business up top with the steel ceiling.
A mullet building.
Like the bottom. Yeah. The bottom looks great, like from the front, but then they pan up, and you're like, "Oh, that's just like a warehouse," like
ugly ceiling.
Right? Yeah, it just kind of.
It looks cheap.
Yeah. Well, there were like a couple groups. Like I thought Hit Row, like that looks like a space for them. Like I thought Hit Row Records. Like I was like, I get it. This looks cool. I thought Pete Dunne kind of worked to that space for a reason, but there were a lot of other times where it was like. Yeah, it would look really flashy. They'd cut to the intro, and then they'd pan out. And I was just like, "Oh, they're in a warehouse." Like so. So back to let's see. We talked about Ciampa. We talked about Braun. We talked about Dexter. Ben Buchanan, the son of WWE Tag Team Champion Bull Buchanan, he made his debut. He's now going as Brooks Jensen. He and Josh Briggs revealed their new tag team. In a pre-match promo, apparently working somewhat of a modern-day cowboy western gimmick. They issued a warning to the NXT Tag Division before losing quickly to Imperium's Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel, who looked really strong here. And again, like, you kind of feel this like new versus old NXT battle brewing, right? Like I was surprised that they had Imperium beat these guys. I was surprised Ciampa went over in the end. There is an interesting kind of intrigue, I guess there's an intrigue there with the new versus old NXT guard.
I feel like that's kind of what they're building to with an eventual War Games.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, the new guys coming in versus the old crew of NXT, kind of a collision. All right.
Yeah. And I feel like it'll be a good way to get the new guys over because you see them take a beating and survive. And it'll make us as fans be like, wow, you're tough. I'm into you.
I love Moppy here. Cowboys of 2021 original. Brian 1417. Godwin's 2.0. Hey, I don't mind. I don't mind like taking something that again is like broad, like, okay, Cowboys, and then over time refining it. We saw that work with Cameron Grimes where he kind of came out. He was just kind of loud, moonshiner mountain person. And look what, over time, you stretch that around, you morph it a little bit, you start to get into the details, and you can start to create characters. I'll put over too. I really like the Creed brothers with the Diamond Mine. Man, those guys have a look, and they are fun to watch too.
Yeah, they look like real badasses. I believe them.
Vince wants a roster of Creed brothers. Like, that is what I think Vince wants. Like, and you notice how they were putting over the NCAA backgrounds of these guys and kind of trying to legitimize them as athletes. If you get enough of these talent, like if you really do flush out your product of, those indie guys or whatever, and you just create this whole new company of nothing but these pedigreed NCAA Olympic athletes, you get a lot more Creed brothers. I am interested to see what that roster looks like,
Yeah, and they look beefy. I think they're all going to look really beefy. There's a lot of beef.
Well, Polio Del Mar here, by the way, saying, what? They look sloppy and horrible and are boring. I disagree. I like them. They move differently. I don't know if I call that sloppy. Anyway, you'll be here tomorrow. We can talk about it. But while we're talking Diamond Mine, after their match, squashing these enhancement talents, Malcolm Bivens introduced the new female member of their stable, Ivy Nile. This role is played by Emily and Zulis, the former MMA competitor, became the first female Titan champion in 2019 when she won the Rock's Titan Games on NBC, which is a ticket to ride in WWE.
Yeah, and a ticket to ride on NBC Universal Properties. So I think she's going to be on Raw very soon. Hey,
here's the thing. It's like, so when I saw the Diamond Mine, and she looks cool, like fits it, Creed Bros look cool. Roderick Strong slowly starting to feel more and more like the odd man out in the Diamond Mine to his own group. Did you notice him just kind of standing, I hate to say timidly, but I was looking at how he was holding his hands, and it just looked like he was so restrained, weird. What a weird tale for the Diamond Mine.
There's a lot of things that feel really weird and out of place, uneven. People are just there to fill their spots. It is confusing. Like, I love Kushida, but he doesn't seem like he belongs anywhere right now. And he's a champion.
Yeah.
What?
Well, and he was gone. I don't think he was part of the 3 weeks of tapings because I think he got COVID. So we haven't really seen him on TV. But look, we'll see what him and Roddy do next week. I'm sure they'll have a banger match. But yeah, man, like outside of just being good wrestlers, what's the hooks? What's the stories? What am I invested in right now? A lot of characters last night. That's for sure. Well, we saw a revamp of Mandy Rose. She's got a new look. Wore these like black jean shorts, dark brunette hair. This was the top item on the website this morning coming out of NXT was this particular thing. So she has an alliance with Gigi Dolan, JC Jane, continued on NXT where they defeated Saray, Casey Catanzaro, and Caden Carter in a 6-woman match. I mean, Mandy Rose looked, I think, arguably the best maybe Mandy Rose has ever looked on WWE TV. She's a tenured veteran of the main roster now and coming down and doing some, I thought she looked awesome on NXT last night.
Yeah, Mandy Rose is great. I think Mandy Rose is an excellent performer, and I'm excited to see her, and hopefully she will be featured. The women's division really got kind of shafted last night, so I don't really know. I mean, I'm glad that they got featured, but how do you get the title match off the show? What is that business?
Yeah, so you mentioned it. Monet Raquel Gonzalez for the title was supposed to take place, didn't happen. Fightful saying no word on why it was nixed, but officials were aware of the change by Monday morning. I have to think it was just because they wanted to introduce a bunch of talent. They want to give this match time, so they'll move it back a week or two. It is, again, maybe I'm rationalizing too much for them. I get it, but at the same time, this is one of the biggest criticisms of what people are having problems with your product right now is the false advertising. And, as Mick Foley said last week, AEW does a great job of showing you all the matches you're going to get on that show, the next show, and they deliver on them. And there's a constant build and a constant momentum and a constant hype to what you're watching or what you're going to be watching next. And WWE is losing faith from the fans the more and more they do stuff like this.
Yeah, they make you feel stupid for caring.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on me. Look, we all have all of our. There is no such thing as a casual fan anymore. Everyone has an intentional use for their time. It just doesn't exist. People, make a choice. They have on-demand entertainment. It's not I just turn on the TV. They pick that show. I just don't buy this. I don't buy any of this stuff. It's garbage.
And like Monday night with the Big E cash-in and everything, I know Ryan Satin put out this tweet that riled the masses about why is everybody so upset about this thing that could be very, very positive. Why are you prejudging it? And like, I love Ryan. Ryan's a good friend of mine, but I think missing the mark here on this one, because the reason people were so jaded about the Big E cash-in and like had so many kind of maybe initially negative opinions was, one, a disbelief that it would even happen, right? And two, well, I think that's just about it. The disbelief that it would even happen, right? I think that WWE just needs to earn back that trust from the audience right now. And they did right by Big E on Monday night and kind of put some of those critics to bed. But that's got to be a more consistent deal where you're hyping things and delivering on them, for sure.
I mean, it's a fantastic business model for the NFL. We know every week we have 6 days to think about this next game, and you're planning and you're like, oh God, what's going to happen with the players? And you have a week to plan and imagine, and then you cook food and enjoy this game. And instead, we could have that with wrestling, and AEW is following that model. And WWE is just dropping the ball here.
Lastly here, coming out of NXT, before actually we have one more NXT item, then we'll talk a little bit about Big E, then we'll get to our interviews and do the mailbag and all that. But there was a vignette for Tony D'Angelo of Chicago, who is coming soon to NXT 2.0. A new vignette aired during NXT, announcing the upcoming arrival of D'Angelo. He cut a little promo. The role of D'Angelo is played by NCAA wrestler Joe Aurelio, and it looks like the character is going to have some sort of mafia connection with also an amateur wrestling background. We've spent a lot of time in Chicago, Biwo. How did you feel about Tony D'Angelo, mobster? Not, I don't know, mafia. Mafia is more New York, more of a mobster kind of vibe in Chicago.
Who is this character for? Who is this character for?
Clint Eastwood.
Because like if you're trying to get young people into this show, they're gonna feel like an idiot for caring. And if it got, oh my God, it just breaks my brain. And I can tell that this young man has some talent and could possibly be good at something. But this garbage is just so. I just felt like an idiot. I was hoping my wife would not come in the room as I watched the show last night.
Wow.
I wanted my wife to still love me. And I think if she came in and saw me watching NXT last night, she'd be like, I can't be married to this adult child.
Wow. Dave-In, young people love Italian stereotypes, Brian. That's what Dave-In says. Yeah, I mean, it also just didn't feel very Chicago. Like, I don't know.
No.
Maybe I don't spend enough time in like Little Italy, Chicago, but like I know Chicago. I don't know that I've ever talked to anyone in Chicago that talks like this man. It's again way more New York vibes to me. Like felt very New Yorker mafia, not like Chicago mobster. And maybe I'm trying to find a line here and slicing a hair. Did not feel like a mobster to me. I think it's going to play like, you have Legado del Fantasma, which is kind of like a cartel group. You have Hit Row Records, which is, this hip hop entity. You got to have a group of, I would imagine this mobster faction is going to have, he's going to have backup goons. They're going to be dumping pasta on people's heads and dropping horse heads in locker rooms, things of that nature.
Here's how you get him over with me is call up Enzo Amore.
Oh, God.
What's he doing? Come on, call up Enzo.
I've literally killed men in the past year and a half. I am so down for this. Hooah! You know? So, all right. All right. One last NXT item. And this actually ties into one of the main event competitors last night, or I guess semi-main to the wedding. Fightful saying Pete Dunne has agreed to a new 3-year contract with NXT that'll have him there through 2024. The new contract was personally offered to Dunne by Triple H before he took time off for heart surgery. It was reported in late August that Dunne had received a contract offer, and now we know this is the deal he ended up agreeing on. Why not Dunne then? Like you asked it, you said earlier you thought it would be Dunne. I kind of thought maybe it'll be Dunne. He's the only one they haven't done it with yet, outside of Von Wagner. Why not Pete? You got it for 3 more years. Seemed like a good time to put the title on him.
I think they just want to send a message to everyone that might possibly re-sign to just not re-sign. Because, like, you re-sign with the company and then lose. What? They could have. There's no reason to put the belt on Ciampa instead of Dunne. What?
Unless they want just a temporary established champion to heat up a Braun Breaker or whatever it may be, I guess. Is
Pete Dunne going to beat Braun Breaker? No, they're going to job him out to that guy.
Wow. Okay. We have Brian Bill saying, I'm sorry, Pete Dunne. Eric Roberts, Pete's going to be a gladiator with Cross in no time. Hey, they're trying with Cross. Kind of very serious adult promo on Monday Night Raw.
That was weird. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, man.
Samantha, Dunne is not done with NXT cover. King Rail, I think Pete's going to the main roster. Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to put the title on him here, he's bigger than other NXT talents. I think Pete could hang on a SmackDown and be fine. I mean, he's certainly well past development at this point.
Yeah. I mean, Pete Dunne's ready. You can put him in any match. Remember that great match with Tyler Bate? It seemed like an eon ago. Remember that?
Well, and Raw is lacking on top heels right now. And now you got a big old baby face in Big E. And, you're going to run back Lashley, I'm sure. Randy Orton's not really a heel right now. AJ Styles isn't a tag team. Maybe a Pete Dunne coming in, running roughshod, and quickly establishing himself as like competition to Big E. I don't hate that. I think they'd slap. I think that'd be a really good match.
I think Pete Dunne makes every match believable. Him bending people's fingers is always upsetting, no matter where you go. I love that.
All right. Now, as we talk about Big E, we go to our Big E block to wrap up the news before we get to Damian Priest, Brian, Paul, Kevin McElvaney, and then, of course, the mailbag at the end. So Big E block, multiple Big E stories. At WrestleVote saying the title win for Big E was months in the making. Go back to the summer where there was talk of moving him to the red brand as a fresh face for the main event scene. And it was also noted that the idea was to bring him over. You notice he still kept his music, right? Didn't come out to the It's a New Day, yes it is, when he cashed it in, which I think was maybe a missed opportunity, but neither here nor there. They're trying to present him as his own man while also getting to be a part of NXT, which is different than what they did with Kofi. What do you think about that presentation?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I think all of them can work together. It's okay to have Big E on his own, but we all know that he's friends with the New Day. We all know that, they're a unit. We know that they have a podcast that comes out every Monday. They have their Twitch stuff. Like I said earlier, there are no casual fans. We are all intentionally using our time. So we know what's going on with New Day, and we don't necessarily need them together, but to pretend like they're not friends is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think having them on the same brand is good.
Yeah, totally. PWInsider.com, a pair of news items here saying the cash-in by Big E resulted in a huge uptick in morale among the Raw superstars out of genuine excitement for Big E. Big E winning the title was seen as a huge deal internally, as he's very much loved by the locker room. There was talk among SmackDown talents who wish they could have been at Raw in Boston just for that experience. And, I mean, this is great, but you hear that story, and then by Tuesday you hear, this is weird. Like, we're all uncomfortable. Like, the emotional yo-yo is just got to be, that's a That's I don't know, cut a different cloth, I guess. So
Well, I feel like, it's like a different part of the company. It's like a different world. It's kind of like NXT doesn't even feel like it's attached to WWE right now.
I thought it was interesting they brought Damian Priest into NXT last night. Like
Yeah.
I think it's if Vince McMahon is saying I know how to fix NXT, we'll just do a little bit more crossover. They were already doing that. It was very successful under Hunter. Hunter is now gone. Vince is doing it again. If it were, I mean, it'll work. I mean, it definitely worked pre-Survivor Series 2019. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a little more crossover. Maybe Pete Dunne just shows up kind of at first, kind of Taz style from ECW. I don't know. Throwing it out there. So PW Insider also saying Bobby Lashley's knee, 100% fine. He just did a really good job selling on Raw. A lot of people actually thought he'd hurt his knee. He received a significant amount of praise backstage for his performance. And yeah, kudos. I hope him and E both got a round of applause. Didn't Bobby Lashley also win his on a Raw, like the title? It wasn't, or wasn't it? Right? It wasn't on a pay-per-view. He won it, was it?
Yeah, this last title win was on Raw. But I feel like that's the thing is you gotta right now the priority is television, not pay-per-view for WWE. It's a completely different model than AEW right now.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I just think it's interesting that the last two WWE title changes have happened on free TV, and what this past Monday night was also the first regular season NFL game on Monday nights, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
Ravens and Raiders.
Yeah, I think so. So this was really, I think, kind of a statement here by WWE that, hey, I know football's coming in here. This is the first week, but we do big stuff over here, and anything can happen to kind of set the tone maybe for the next, 14 weeks they're going to be in this brawl with the NFL.
I mean, they really need to do that because I can't remember the last time Raw felt important. And Monday at least gave me something, but it hasn't felt important.
We'll see what they do on Monday. Now, it's great that we're here, but I worry about the lack of heels over on Raw. And maybe they'll have a cure for or an answer for that, to put something together. But I do worry that this was kind of a reactionary move to the NFL and AEW's momentum. And while they got to the moment, and it was built for months, I mean, he won the title, but I wonder, I worry about maybe what the next steps will be. We'll see. Well, here's a little bit of a tea leaf to wrap up the news block here about maybe where we could be headed. In the aftermath of Lashley losing to Big E and the title on Raw, MVP took to Instagram, posted a picture of himself on a plane sitting alongside Shelton Benjamin, writing, discussing business with an old acquaintance, and that led fans to speculate on a possible reunion of the Hurt Business. Meanwhile, Cedric Alexander mocked Lashley by tweeting, if only you had some backup, immediately after Big E cashed in the briefcase on Raw. Now, there's also been some chatter lately, just mainly among fans and stuff, wondering what could be next for Keith Lee, but maybe he could be introduced or reintroduced as a member of the Hurt Business. How do you feel about all of this, B-Wo?
I mean, I always feel like Keith Lee is a babyface to me, but hey, man, if you can get Keith Lee on TV, make him a heel, put him in the Hurt Business. I'm in. And it also makes him feel important right away. So I'll take it.
Yeah, and I think that Keith Lee is like a straight-faced muscle, right? Because there's this vibe with Hurt Business where there's they're heels, but you respect them kind of thing. I think if you're going to try to do anything heelish with Keith Lee, this is not a terrible way to go about it. I question whether Cedric Alexander will be back in the mix. I always felt like he was the odd man out there, and maybe still will be. But Shelton, Keith, Lashley, MVP, maybe Cedric back in the fold. I am interested to see what the storyline to get them all back together would be, and interested to see what they would do on Raw, and could be a really good centerpiece. I'm pro reuniting the Hurt Business in some form or fashion, a new nation of domination, if you will.
I mean, I think it's very fascinating because then that would make the top babyface and the top heel of Raw both minorities, and given a really big contrast to the product that AEW is presenting.
All right. Well, Brian, thank you for joining me at the top of the show. Talk all the news today. Thank you to you and Damian Priest and Paul and Kevin. And if you are watching the show in 15 minutes live, we're going to be premiering Paul's conversation with PWI executive editor Kevin McElvaney here. And again, about 15 minutes. Go check that out. All right. So you just mentioned AEW at the end of our news block, BWO. Excellent pivot. And there was about 55 minutes of time in between there. Don't care. We're going to act as if that was a seamless transition, right? Maybe just fast forward to the end of the show. I don't know. We're going to talk about AEW here in our mailbag. So at Wink Daily, WINC Daily, that's the Twitter account to follow. Man, we're up at 1,267 followers. The goal is 1,666 followers by Halloween. So I can open a portal to hell and we can welcome some of our favorite evil pro wrestlers back to do a Halloween edition or something with us. That sounds awful. Woo. Why would I do that? Anyway, so today's poll question is, what's your dream AEW versus New Japan Pro Wrestling match? The ones I listed were Omega Ospreay, The Elite versus Bullet Club, Kingston versus Ishii, which is a match I just personally wanted to see. And at 6.2%, we got other write-ins. So Elite Bullet Club, they lead at 48.9%. Omega Ospreay 36.5, Kingston Ishii 8.4, and then the rest at 6.2. They were write-ins. Biwa, what's your dream AEW New Japan match?
And I'm a really big fan of the original WWE Cruiserweight tournament, and Brian Danielson was the commentator while Kota Ibushi made it to the finals. And I want to see Brian Danielson versus Kota Ibushi.
All right. Yeah, I saw that written in, man, and I think that's a banger, right? And like when I put the poll together, I guess it's like it hasn't registered for me that Brian Danielson's like with AEW now.
Right? Oh my gosh.
Like, and that just totally opens up the door. Like there's so many like Brian Danielson New Japan matches that I'd love to see. Like the Buzzcat says Danielson Okada, Coffee Goblin, Danielson versus literally everyone. I guess he'll be the next one to run back the John Moxley playbook. Yeah. More for Danielson Okada. We have Robert McConvey, Omega Ibushi, or Omega Naito. Yeah, I saw a lot of people writing Omega Ibushi. They want to see that Golden Lover, you know.
I feel like this Golden Lovers story has been going on for almost a decade. I want to see it.
At Brandon _Hecht, Ibushi versus Pac. And yeah, if those guys were given like 30 plus minutes, get your fire extinguisher because the building's gonna burn down. Yeah, more for Okada Danielson, man. A lot for that. We have at Hamad _2042, Mox versus Tanahashi. Book it, Tony. And then we have a couple write-ins here. Just Frody 420, AEW. We have at Rick Plott, Brian as AEW champion over Omega, just I guess calling a shot, I guess. We have this is not AEW New Japan, but Rick Plott also wanting to see CM Punk versus Starks, which I think we'll see sooner than later. Rob Humphrey wants to see Okada versus Luther. All right, guys, we're just going off the railroad tracks now. Okay. And maybe you were being serious, Rob. No knock on Dr. Luther. All right, we're at the end of the show here for today. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to have even more BWO in the house. I'm going to air the audio from Brian's SummerSlam weekend conversation with Dewdrop. You're also going to get to hear my conversation with gimmick attorney Mike Dawkins, who's handled a lot of big trademark issues for notable pro wrestlers. So if you're interested in the business side of the business, strap in. I think it's a great 25-minute talk and some excellent advice for independent wrestlers that comes out of this one. Almost a tutorial for maybe good practices you should have as an indie wrestler. And of course, you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials. The Wrestling Podcast is like this, but at night, different faces, different punditry after the big shows, including Dynamite this evening. And of course, if you're in the Chicagoland area, October 4th, make your way to Replay Lincoln Park. I will be hosting the official Chicago WWE draft party. That's the night of Raw. I'll be there about an hour early, an hour late. WWE is sending me a ton of merchandise and swag. This is free to attend. And if you come and you hang out and you party, there's free arcade games, there's beer, and we make a good time. You'll probably leave with free stuff. And that's about the best offer I think you can get. Free stuff. All free. Free for free. Pay for beer. Arcades are free. All right. Brian, anything you want to plug for put over here to wrap up the show today?
I want to plug my interview with Dewdrop tomorrow. Dewdrop was just delightful to talk to, and she actually just got married, so congratulations to her. And yeah, it was awesome to just hear from her about what it's like going from NXT UK straight to her first month on the road touring with Raw brand.
Yeah, cool. Well, come on back, everybody. And if you want to watch it, it's already available in video form over on the Wrestling YouTube channel. We're just trying to make sure all this audio gets dropped into the show because not everybody watches everything we do on the YouTube channel. And I think it's just good to attach these big names to the show. I think it's just good for the show. So anyway, I am at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow. I'll be joined by Pollo Del Mar, a.k.a. Paul Pratt, or Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Pollo Del Mar, however you want to phrase it. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.